What if you chose your ex for a flight, shut your husband down at the door, and didn't notice his calm wasn't forgiveness? It was the moment he decided to disappear for good. I stared at my reflection in the hallway mirror, adjusting the neckline of my new blouse. At 32, I still had it. The boutique clerk had been right. This shade of emerald brought out my eyes. I'd spent more than I should have, but Gary wouldn't notice the credit card statement for weeks. He never paid attention to details like that anymore. "Mum, dinner's getting cold," Kenia called from the kitchen. My 10-year-old daughter had been setting the table without being asked lately. She was growing up too fast, becoming more responsible than her own father. I walked into our suburban kitchen, where Gary sat hunched over his laptop at the dining table. His dark hair was messier than usual, and he hadn't bothered changing out of his wrinkled work shirt. The IT consultant look, so predictable. "Can you close that thing for 5 minutes?" I asked, sliding into my chair. "Your daughter made an effort to set a nice table." Gary glanced up, his brown eyes tired. "Sorry, just finishing up this client report. The server migration is—" "Always work," I muttered, cutting him off. "When's the last time you asked how my day was?" Kenia's fork clinked against her plate. She was picking at her food, those big eyes darting between us. Smart kid. She could sense the tension that had been building for months. Gary closed the laptop with a sigh. "How was your day, Iridian?" The question felt mechanical, rehearsed. "Fine. Jennifer from accounting got promoted. She's younger than me, you know, less experienced too." "I'm sorry. Maybe next time." "Next time," I laughed bitterly. "There's always a next time with you, isn't there? Next time you'll pay attention. Next time you'll support my career. Next time you'll actually act like a husband instead of a roommate." Kenia's chair scraped against the floor. "May I be excused?" "Finish your vegetables first, sweetheart," Gary said gently. I watched our daughter force down a few more bites, her discomfort obvious. This wasn't the life I'd imagined when Gary and I got married 8 years ago. Back then, he'd seemed stable, reliable. Now those same qualities felt suffocating. My phone buzzed against the table. A text from Sean. "Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." I quickly flipped the phone face down, but not before a warm flutter spread through my chest. Sean Larkin, my high school boyfriend who'd recently moved back to town after his divorce. We'd reconnected on social media 3 months ago, and he remembered things about me that Gary had forgotten. Like how I'd always dreamed of traveling, of doing something meaningful with my life. "Who was that?" Gary asked. "Just Sheila. My sister wants to grab drinks this week." The lie came easily. Too easily. But what choice did I have? Gary wouldn't understand that I needed something more than this mundane existence. He'd never understood my need for excitement, for feeling alive. After Kenia escaped to her room, Gary started loading the dishwasher. His movements were efficient, methodical. Everything about him was methodical. "I might go out Friday night," I said, leaning against the counter. "Girls' night. I need to get out of this house." "That sounds nice. You should have fun." His easy agreement irritated me. Shouldn't he care more? Shouldn't he want to spend time with his wife? "Don't wait up," I added, testing him. "Okay." He didn't even look at me. The phone rang, interrupting my growing frustration. Gary's mother, of course. "Hi, Lydia," I answered with forced sweetness. "Hello, dear. Is Gary available?" "He's right here." I handed him the phone, noting how his posture straightened when he heard his mother's voice. Lydia Voss had never liked me, though she'd never said it directly. She had that passive-aggressive way of asking about my little job and whether I was taking good care of Gary and Kenia. I half listened to their conversation about some family gathering while I scrolled through my phone. Sean had sent another message. "You deserve so much better. Can't wait to show you how a real man treats a woman." My heart raced. When had Gary last made me feel desired? When had he last made me feel like I mattered? "Mum says hi," Gary said, hanging up. "I'm sure she does." He frowned at my tone. "Iridian, What's wrong? You've been different lately. Distant. Different. If only he knew how different I was becoming. How alive I felt when Sean looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. Maybe I'm tired of being taken for granted, I said, my voice sharper than intended. I don't take you for granted. When's the last time you bought me flowers? When's the last time you planned a surprise for me? When's the last time you made me feel like you actually wanted to be married to me? Gary's jaw tightened. I work 60 hours a week to provide for this family. I thought that showed how much I care. Money isn't everything, Gary. Some women need more than a paycheck and a roof over their heads. Some women. I grabbed my purse from the counter. I'm going to meet Sheila. Don't wait up. As I headed for the door, Gary called after me. Iridian, wait, can we talk about this? But I was already gone, my heels clicking against the driveway. In my car, I texted Sean, on my way. His response was immediate. Can't wait to hold you. I drove toward the Italian restaurant downtown, my pulse quickening with each mile. This was what I deserved. This was what I'd been missing. Behind me, Gary stood in the doorway, watching my taillights disappear into the night. Later, when he was folding laundry, he'd find the receipt from the men's cologne I'd bought Sean. The cologne I'd claimed was for my Secret Santa gift exchange at work, but I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that for the first time in years, I felt alive. The Italian restaurant was dimly lit, perfect for what I needed tonight. Sean was already waiting in a corner booth, looking better than he had any right to at 33. His sandy hair was styled differently than in high school, and his shoulders had filled out nicely. When he stood to greet me, I felt that familiar flutter. You look incredible, he said, his hands lingering on my waist as he kissed my cheek. That color is perfect on you. Gary hadn't even noticed my new blouse. Thank you. I slid into the booth across from him, hyper-aware of how his eyes followed my movements. I needed this. Rough day with the husband. I sighed, pulling out my phone to stage the evening's alibi. He doesn't even see me anymore, Sean. I'm like furniture to him. While Sean ordered wine, I quickly texted my sister Sheila. Can you post something about girls' night? Need the cover story. Her response was immediate. You're terrible. I love it. Minutes later, she'd posted a throwback photo of us at a bar from last month with the caption, Sister time is the best time. Cha girls' night, doubt blessed. I screenshotted it and posted it to my own social media with the comment, nothing like sister bonding. Love this girl. You're good at this, Sean observed, watching me work my phone. Good at what? Playing the game. I always admired that about you in high school. You knew how to get what you wanted. The wine arrived and Sean filled my glass generously. The first sip sent warmth spreading through my chest. I'm not playing games, I said. I'm just figuring things out. And what have you figured out? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Gary, hope you're having fun. Love you. The simple message should have made me feel guilty. Instead, it annoyed me. So automatic, so predictable. Nothing important, I said, turning the phone face down. Sean reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. You know, I never forgot about us, about what we had. That was a long time ago. Was it, though, because sitting here with you now, it feels like yesterday. I let him hold my hand, enjoying the way his thumb traced circles on my skin. When had Gary last touched me like this? When had he last looked at me like I was fascinating? Tell me about your divorce, I said. Sean's expression darkened slightly. Rebecca never understood me. She was always trying to change me, control me. Sound familiar? I thought about Gary's gentle suggestions that I might enjoy a hobby, his offers to take cooking classes together, his attempts to plan date nights that I usually found boring. Very familiar, I agreed. A woman like you shouldn't be trapped in some suburban nightmare, Sean continued. You were meant for adventure. You used to talk about traveling the world, remember? What happened to those dreams? Life happened. Marriage. Kenia. But you're still young, still beautiful, still the same girl who wanted to see Paris. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Gary's mother. Saw your post. Thought you were having financial troubles. Expensive restaurant for a girls' night. My blood chilled. Lydia was always watching, always judging. I showed Sean the message. "Nosy old bat," he said. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. They're suffocating you." I quickly deleted the message without responding and took a larger sip of wine. "You don't have to live like that," Sean continued. "You don't have to ask permission to enjoy yourself." "I don't ask permission. Don't you? When's the last time you did something just for you? When's the last time you felt truly free?" The wine was making me bold. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you remember who you used to be, before you became someone's wife and someone's mother and someone's daughter-in-law." The server brought our appetizer, but I barely tasted it. Sean's words were intoxicating, more potent than the alcohol. "I've been thinking," he said, leaning closer. "I'm going to that conference in Chicago next weekend. You should come with me." "Sean, I can't just—" "Why not? You said yourself that Gary doesn't appreciate you. When's the last time he took you somewhere nice?" I thought about our last vacation, a long weekend at his brother's lake house, where Gary had spent most of the time helping Paul fix his dock. "It's been a while," I admitted. "I'm not talking about some family obligation. I'm talking about a real trip. Just us. Like we used to plan when we were kids." My heart was racing. The idea was crazy, impossible, but it was also thrilling. I'd have to think about it. "What's to think about? You deserve to be happy, Iridian. You deserve to be with someone who sees how amazing you are." My phone buzzed with a text from a coworker. "Girl, saw your post. That restaurant is fancy. Who's the lucky guy?" I quickly deleted it, but Sean had seen my panicked expression. "Problem? Just work drama." But my hands were shaking slightly as I typed back, "Sister night, no guys allowed." "You're nervous," Sean observed. "I'm not nervous. This is complicated." "It doesn't have to be. You're allowed to have friends. You're allowed to have a life outside of that house." He was right. I was an adult woman. I could have dinner with an old friend without it being anyone's business. "Tell me more about Chicago," I heard myself say. Sean's smile was dazzling. "It's a beautiful city, great restaurants, amazing architecture. I could show you everything." As he talked, I found myself nodding, getting caught up in his enthusiasm. When had Gary last been enthusiastic about anything besides his computer servers? "Think about it," Sean said as we prepared to leave. "But don't think too long. Life is short, and you've already wasted too much time being unhappy." In the parking lot, he walked me to my car. The night air was cool against my flushed cheeks. "I had a wonderful time tonight," he said, standing closer than necessary. "Me too." "This is how it should be, Iridian. This is how you should feel every day." He kissed my cheek again, but this time his lips lingered near the corner of my mouth. My breath caught. "Think about Chicago," he whispered. I drove home in a daze, Sean's cologne still clinging to my clothes. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, but I noticed Mrs. Patterson from next door closing her curtains quickly. Had she been watching for me? Inside, Gary was asleep on the couch, his laptop still open beside him. A wave of something, guilt, irritation, washed over me. He couldn't even be bothered to wait up to ask how my evening went. I covered him with a blanket and headed upstairs, my phone already buzzing with a text from Sean. "Sweet dreams, beautiful. Chicago is waiting." As I got ready for bed, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes bright. I looked alive in a way I hadn't in years. Maybe Sean was right. Maybe I did deserve more than this. Downstairs, Gary's phone lit up with a message from his neighbor. "Hey man, thought I saw Iridian getting into someone else's car tonight at Romano's. Probably nothing, but wanted you to know." But Gary was still asleep and wouldn't see the message until morning. Monday morning at the office felt different. I sat at my desk in the administrative pool, trying to focus on spreadsheets, but my mind kept drifting to Saturday night. Sean had texted me twice since then, once to say he'd had a wonderful time, and again to send me a link to a Chicago hotel with the message, "Look at this view, perfect for us." "Someone's glowing this morning," Jennifer said, appearing at my cubicle with her coffee. She'd gotten the promotion I'd wanted, but today I found I didn't care as much. "Just had a good weekend," I replied, minimizing my personal email. "Girls' night with your sister, right?" "I saw the post. That restaurant looked expensive." "Sheila's doing well for herself." Jennifer lingered, clearly fishing for more details, but my phone rang before she could probe further. "Iridian Voss," I answered professionally. "Good morning, gorgeous." Sean's voice sent a familiar thrill through me. I glanced around the office, lowering my voice. "I can't really talk right now." I know. Professional woman and all that. I just wanted to hear your voice. Did you think about what we discussed? Chicago, the hotel, the chance to feel alive again." "I'm still considering it," I whispered. "Don't consider too long. I need to book the room soon, and I want to make sure it's perfect for us." "Sean, I have to run into a meeting, but I'll call you later. Maybe we can grab lunch this week." After he hung up, I sat staring at my computer screen, my heart racing. Jennifer was still hovering nearby, pretending to organize files but obviously eavesdropping. "Everything okay?" she asked. "You look flushed." "Just work stress." But as the morning progressed, I found it impossible to concentrate. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was Sean. When it was just Gary asking if I needed anything from the grocery store, I felt disappointed. At lunch, I escaped to my car and called Sean back. "There's my girl," he answered on the first ring. "Miss me already?" "I've been thinking about Chicago." "And?" "It's crazy. I can't just disappear for a weekend." "Why not? You said yourself that Gary barely notices you. Tell him it's a work conference. Tell him your sister needs you. Tell him whatever you need to tell him." The ease with which he suggested lying should have bothered me more than it did. "What about Kenia?" "She'll be fine with her father for one weekend. Kids are resilient." I thought about my daughter's withdrawn behavior lately, how she'd been watching Gary and me with worried eyes. "I don't know." "Iridian, listen to me. You're 32 years old. You're beautiful, intelligent, and completely wasted on that man. When's the last time you did something just for yourself?" He was right. When had I last been spontaneous? When had I last felt desired, wanted, alive? "The hotel room," I said quietly. "It would just be separate beds, right?" Sean's laugh was warm, seductive. "Whatever you want, beautiful. I just want to spend time with you, show you how you deserve to be treated." After we hung up, I sat in my car for several more minutes, staring at the Chicago hotel website on my phone. The pictures were beautiful. A suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, elegant furnishings, a king-sized bed. I quickly closed the browser and headed back inside. The afternoon dragged. I found myself checking my phone constantly, disappointed when it was just work emails or texts from Gary about mundane household matters. When Sean finally called again at 3, I was ready for him. "I've made a decision," I said, stepping into the empty break room. "I'm listening." "Chicago, this weekend. But I need you to understand. You don't need to explain anything. I understand completely. This is about friendship, about you remembering who you are." "Exactly. So it's yes?" My heart pounded. "It's yes. You've just made me the happiest man alive. I'll take care of everything. All you have to do is show up." As I hung up, I felt a mixture of excitement and terror. What was I doing? But before I could second-guess myself, Jennifer appeared in the break room doorway. "Was that your husband?" she asked. "You looked pretty intense." "Just family stuff." She moved to the coffee machine, but I could feel her watching me. "You know, Carol from HR mentioned seeing you at Romano's Saturday night. Said you looked cozy with some guy. I told her it was probably your brother-in-law or something. My blood ran cold. Carol was there. She was on a date with that guy from the 3rd floor. Don't worry, I covered for you. Told her you were probably just catching up with an old friend. Thanks, I managed, though my voice sounded strained. Everything okay at home? You seem different lately. Everything's fine, just tired. But as I walked back to my desk, I could feel Jennifer's eyes following me. How many other people had seen Sean and me together? How many other questions would I have to dodge? My phone buzzed with a text from Lydia, Gary's mother. Gary mentioned you were out late Saturday. Hope Sheila is doing well. Perhaps we could all have dinner soon. The message felt loaded with subtext. Lydia had always been suspicious of me, always watching for signs that I wasn't good enough for her precious son. I deleted the message without responding. At 5 o'clock, I practically ran to my car, eager to escape the office and its prying eyes. But as I drove home, my phone rang through the Bluetooth system. Iridian? It was Gary. Can you pick up some milk on your way home? And maybe we could talk tonight. I feel like we haven't really connected lately. I'm tired, Gary. Maybe tomorrow. It's just, my mum mentioned she tried to text you earlier and didn't hear back. She's worried she offended you somehow. Of course she'd gone crying to Gary. Lydia couldn't confront me directly, so she'd manipulate her son into doing it for her. I've been busy at work. I'll call her later. Okay, I love you, Iridian. The words felt heavy, loaded with expectation. Love you too. But as I hung up, I realized how hollow the words sounded. When had I love you become just another obligation? At the grocery store, I ran into Gloria Larkin, Sean's mother. We'd known each other peripherally for years, but had never been close. Iridian, how lovely to see you, she said, her smile a little too bright. Sean mentioned he'd run into you recently. Such a small world. Yes, it is. He's been so much happier since moving back home. The divorce was hard on him, you know. He needed familiar faces, old friends. I'm sure. He always spoke so fondly of you from high school. First love and all that. Gloria's eyes were sharp, calculating. It's nice that you can be friends now, despite your different circumstances. The emphasis on different circumstances felt pointed. Did she know about Chicago? About Saturday night? Well, I should get going, I said, grabbing the milk. Gary's expecting me. Of course. Give my regards to your family. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that walls were closing in around me. Too many people were watching, asking questions, drawing conclusions. But then my phone buzzed with another text from Sean. Can't wait for our adventure. You're going to love Chicago. And just like that, the anxiety faded, replaced by anticipation. In 5 days, I'd be free. In 5 days, I'd remember what it felt like to be truly alive. I had no idea that Gary had already seen his neighbor's text. No idea that he'd started paying attention to our phone bill, to my strange receipts, to the way I'd been acting. No idea that while I was planning my escape, he was quietly gathering evidence of my betrayal. Kenia's 10th birthday fell on a Thursday, but we'd planned the family celebration for Saturday evening. I'd spent the day decorating the dining room with pink streamers and balloons, trying to create the perfect atmosphere, despite the tension that had been building all week. Gary had been different since Monday. Quieter, more watchful. I'd catch him looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When I'd asked him about it, he'd claimed he was just stressed about work. The cake looks beautiful, Mum, Kenia said, admiring the elaborate princess castle I'd ordered from the bakery. She'd been more animated today than she'd been in weeks, excited about her party. Only the best for my girl, I replied, adjusting one of the plastic towers. The doorbell rang at 6 sharp. Gary's family was always punctual. Lydia entered first, carrying a perfectly wrapped gift and wearing her usual disapproving expression. She kissed Kenia warmly but barely acknowledged me. Happy birthday, sweetheart, she said to Kenia. 10 years old. You're practically grown up. Paul, Gary's older brother, followed with his wife Karen and their twin boys. The house immediately filled with noise and energy as the cousins ran off to play. "Where's Sheila?" Paul asked, looking around. "She'll be here soon," I said, though my sister had texted an hour ago saying she was running late. "You know how she is with time." Lydia sniffed. "Punctuality shows respect for others." "She's been busy with work," I replied, keeping my voice level. "Of course she has." Gary appeared from the kitchen carrying a tray of appetizers. He'd changed into a nice shirt and actually combed his hair. For a moment, he looked like the man I'd married. "Thanks for coming, everyone," he said. "Kenia's been looking forward to this all week." As we gathered around the dining table, I tried to maintain the facade of a happy family. But Lydia's pointed comments and Gary's strange mood were making me tense. "So, Iridian," Lydia said as we served the salad, "Gary mentioned you've been going out more lately, girls' nights and such." "I deserve to have friends," I replied, perhaps more sharply than necessary. "Of course you do, dear. I just think it's wonderful that Gary is so understanding. Some husbands might be concerned about their wives staying out so late." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Gary's jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything. "Some wives might be concerned about being constantly judged by their mother-in-law," I shot back. "Iridian," Gary warned quietly. "What?" "I'm just saying that trust goes both ways in a marriage." Paul cleared his throat uncomfortably. "So, Kenia, tell us about school. How's 4th grade treating you?" Our daughter launched into a story about her science project, and the conversation moved to safer ground. But I could feel Lydia's eyes on me throughout dinner, cataloguing every slight, every sign of disrespect. When Sheila finally arrived during the main course, she brought her whirlwind of energy and expensive perfume. "Sorry I'm late," she announced, kissing Kenia's cheek. "Traffic was insane, and I had to stop by the boutique to pick up your present." She handed Kenia a designer bag that probably cost more than Gary made in a week. My sister worked in marketing for a luxury brand and had always been good at making money and spending it. "You didn't have to spend so much," Gary said politely. "Nothing's too good for my favorite niece," Sheila replied, sliding into the empty chair beside me. "Besides, girls need to learn early that they deserve beautiful things." Another pointed look from Lydia. I was starting to feel like I was under siege. "How's the dating scene, Sheila?" Paul asked, trying to keep things light. "Anyone special?" "I'm keeping my options open," she said with a laugh. "Life's too short to settle for the first guy who shows interest. A woman should explore her possibilities." I felt Gary's eyes on me, but I focused on my plate. "That's a very modern attitude," Lydia said coolly. "It's a realistic attitude. Too many women get trapped in situations that don't fulfill them. They wake up one day and realize they've wasted their youth on someone who doesn't appreciate them." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the children seemed to sense the tension, their chatter dying down. "I think commitment has value too," Gary said quietly. "Of course it does," Sheila agreed, "but only if it's mutual, only if both people are truly happy." "And how do you define happiness?" Lydia asked. "Feeling alive, feeling desired, feeling like you matter." Sheila's words echoed things Sean had said to me, and I felt my cheeks warm. "Some people find happiness in stability," Paul offered diplomatically. "In building something together over time." "And some people call that settling," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. Gary's fork clattered against his plate. "Is that what you think? That you've settled?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone was looking at me now, waiting for my answer. "I think some people are content with mediocrity," I said, my voice gaining strength. "And some people want more from life." "More like what?" Gary's voice was dangerously quiet. "More excitement, more passion, more feeling like they're actually living instead of just existing." "Mom?" Kenia's small voice cut through the tension. "Can we have cake now?" I looked at my daughter's worried face and felt a stab of guilt. This was supposed to be her day, her celebration. Of course, sweetie, let me get the candles. But as I stood to clear the dishes, my phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Sean. Counting down the hours until Chicago. Can't wait to show you what real romance looks like. I quickly grabbed the phone, but not before Gary saw the notification light up. His face went pale, then flushed with anger. Who's texting you during your daughter's birthday dinner? He asked. Just work, I lied automatically. Work texts you about romance? The room went completely silent. Even the children stopped talking. It's nothing, I said, my heart pounding. Show me the phone. Gary, not here, not now. Show me the phone, Iridian. Lydia was watching with undisguised interest. Paul looked uncomfortable. Sheila was studying her nails, pretending not to listen. You're being ridiculous, I said, slipping the phone into my pocket. Am I? Because lately, you've been very secretive about your phone. Very secretive about a lot of things. Can we please not do this in front of everyone? Do what? Ask my wife who's texting her about romance. Kenia's eyes filled with tears. Why are you fighting? The sight of my daughter's distress snapped something inside me. How dare Gary create this scene at her party? How dare he embarrass me in front of his family? Because your father doesn't trust me, I said, my voice cold. Because he'd rather accuse me of things than admit that maybe he's not the perfect husband he thinks he is. I never said I was perfect, Gary replied. But I've been faithful. I've been honest. Can you say the same? The challenge was clear. I could have backed down, could have diffused the situation. Instead, I chose to escalate. Faithful to what? To this? I gestured around the room. To this boring, predictable life where nothing ever changes, where we're more like roommates than spouses. Iridian, Paul warned. No, let me finish. Some of us want more than just paying bills and watching Netflix every night. Some of us want to feel alive. And how exactly do you plan to feel alive? Gary's voice was deadly quiet. Maybe I'll take that trip to Chicago after all. The words were out before I could stop them. Gary's face went white. What trip to Chicago? I realized I'd said too much, but it was too late to back down now. A work conference. I was thinking of going. What work conference? Does it matter? You probably wouldn't even notice I was gone. Try me. The standoff stretched between us, electric and dangerous. Finally, Lydia stood up. I think we should go, she said. This is not appropriate in front of the children. No, please stay, I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness. I'm sure you're enjoying this. Iridian, Gary's voice cracked like a whip. What? Your mother has been waiting for years for proof that I'm not good enough for you. Well, here's your proof, Lydia. Your son bores me to tears. The slap of silence that followed was broken only by Kenia's quiet sobbing. That's enough, Paul said, standing. Karen, get the boys. We're leaving. As the family gathered their things, Kenia ran upstairs to her room. The sound of her door slamming echoed through the house. Look what you've done, Gary said quietly. What I've done? You're the one who started this. I asked about a text message. You turned it into a public humiliation. Maybe because I'm tired of being treated like a suspect in my own home. Sheila, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. Maybe I should go too. No, I said quickly. You're the only one here who understands. Understands what? Gary asked. That life is supposed to be more than this. After everyone left, Gary and I stood in the ruins of our daughter's birthday party. Cake sat untouched on the counter, presents remained unwrapped, and somewhere upstairs, Kenia was crying alone. Chicago, Gary said finally. Who are you going to Chicago with? I could have told him the truth then, could have explained about Sean, about feeling trapped, about needing something more. Instead, I chose the path that would hurt him most. Does it matter? You said yourself you probably wouldn't notice I was gone. Gary stared at me for a long moment, his brown eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but something colder, something final. "You're right," he said quietly. "I probably wouldn't." Then he walked upstairs to comfort our daughter, leaving me alone with the wreckage of what had once been our family. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. But my phone buzzed again with another text from Sean. "Everything okay? Can't wait to hold you tomorrow." And just like that, the emptiness filled with anticipation. Tomorrow, I'd be free. Friday morning arrived grey and drizzling, matching my mood as I finished packing my weekend bag. Gary had barely spoken to me since the birthday disaster, communicating only about logistics, who would pick up Kenia from school, what she was allowed to eat when her soccer practice was scheduled. "I still don't understand why this conference is so last minute," he said from the bedroom doorway, watching me fold clothes into my suitcase. "I told you, someone cancelled and they offered me the spot." The lie came easier each time I told it. "It's a great opportunity for networking." "In Chicago." "Yes, Gary, in Chicago. Is that a problem?" He was quiet for a moment, studying my face. "When will you be back?" "Sunday evening, late." "And you'll be staying at—" "The conference hotel. I already told you this." But I could see the doubt in his eyes, the way his jaw tightened when I wouldn't meet his gaze directly. Kenia appeared beside her father, still in her pajamas. She'd been withdrawn since the party, barely eating breakfast and avoiding eye contact with both of us. "Do you have to go, Mum?" she asked quietly. The question hit me harder than I'd expected. I knelt down to her level, smoothing her dark hair. "It's just for the weekend, sweetheart. Daddy will take good care of you." "But it's the weekend. We always spend weekends together." "This is important for Mommy's job. You understand, right?" She nodded, but her lower lip trembled slightly. Gary's hand settled protectively on her shoulder. "We'll have fun," he told her gently. "Maybe we'll go to that new arcade you wanted to try." "Can we get pizza?" "Whatever you want, kiddo." The easy affection between them made my chest tighten with something I didn't want to examine too closely. My phone buzzed. Sean. "Car's outside, ready for our adventure." My heart leaped. He was here. This was really happening. "That's my ride to the airport," I said, grabbing my suitcase. "I thought you were driving yourself," Gary said. "Uber, easier than dealing with airport parking." Another lie. They were piling up so quickly I could barely keep track. I kissed Kenia's forehead, breathing in her familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "Be good for Daddy, okay?" "Okay, Mom." Gary walked me to the front door, his face carefully neutral. Through the glass, I could see Sean's rental car in the driveway, engine running. "Iridian," Gary said as I reached for the door handle. "Are you sure about this?" For a moment, looking into his brown eyes, I almost wavered. Almost told him the truth about everything. About Sean, about feeling trapped, about the growing distance between us. Instead, I lifted my chin defiantly. "I'm sure. Maybe some time apart will be good for us." Time apart. Yes, to think, to figure out what we both want. "And what do you want?" The question hung between us, loaded with 8 years of marriage, 10 years of Kenia's life, and all the dreams we'd once shared. "I want to feel alive again," I said finally. Something flickered across Gary's face. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "I hope you find what you're looking for." He didn't kiss me goodbye. Didn't say he loved me. Just stood in the doorway watching as I walked to Sean's car, my heels clicking against the wet pavement. Sean got out to help with my suitcase, and I saw him through Gary's eyes. Tall, handsome, confident. Everything Gary wasn't. "Ready, beautiful?" Sean asked, loud enough for Gary to hear. "More than ready." As we pulled away from the house, I looked back to see Gary still standing in the doorway, Kenia now beside him in her pajamas. They looked small and abandoned, framed by the doorway of the home we'd built together. "Don't look back," Sean said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "This is about looking forward." "You're right." I forced myself to face forward, to focus on the adventure ahead. No regrets. None. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake the image of Kenia's tearful face, or the way Gary had looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. At the airport, Sean handled everything, checking us in, upgrading our seats, ordering champagne for the flight. It was intoxicating, being taken care of like this. When had Gary last made me feel this special? To new beginnings, Sean said, raising his plastic cup as the plane taxied down the runway. To feeling alive, I agreed. Chicago was everything Sean had promised. Beautiful, exciting, sophisticated. The hotel suite was stunning, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Sean had indeed booked separate beds, though they were in the same room. I kept my promise, he said, gesturing to the beds. But I have to admit, I'm hoping you might change your mind. The way he looked at me made my pulse race. When had Gary last looked at me like that? We spent the afternoon exploring the city, Sean playing tour guide with enthusiasm that was infectious. He held my hand as we walked, bought me flowers from a street vendor, took pictures of me against the Chicago skyline. You're glowing, he said as we sat at dinner in an elegant restaurant overlooking the river. This is how you should look all the time. I feel like a different person. You feel like yourself, the real you, not the version you've been pretending to be. The wine was making me philosophical. Do you think we ever really know ourselves, or do we just become what other people expect us to be? I think most people settle for what's expected, but some people are brave enough to want more. Is that what I'm doing? Being brave? The bravest thing I've ever seen. Back at the hotel, we sat on the couch in our suite, the city lights twinkling below us. Sean had opened another bottle of wine, and I was feeling reckless, free. I should check on Kenia, I said, reaching for my phone. It's late. She's probably asleep. Just a quick text to Gary. But when I opened my phone, I found 17 missed calls from Gary and a string of increasingly frantic text messages. Kenia's sick, high fever, where are you? Tried calling, need to know if she's allergic to any medications. At urgent care, she's asking for you. Please call me back. The last message was timestamped 20 minutes ago. Never mind, we're home, she's okay. Enjoy your conference. My hands were shaking as I called Gary back, but it went straight to voicemail. Everything okay? Sean asked, noticing my distress. Kenia was sick. Gary took her to urgent care. But she's okay now, right? Kids get sick all the time. I should have been there. You're not a doctor, Iridian. Gary handled it. That's what parents do, they handle things. But the guilt was crushing. My daughter had been sick and scared, asking for me, and I'd been drinking wine and flirting with my ex-boyfriend. I tried calling again. This time Gary answered. How is she? I asked immediately. She's fine. Just a virus. Her fever broke an hour ago. I'm so sorry I didn't answer. My phone was on silent and, it's okay, you're at your conference. I didn't expect you to be available. But his voice was cold, distant. He knew. Somehow he knew I wasn't at any conference. Gary, I have to go. Kenia's calling for me. The line went dead. He hung up on me, I said, staring at my phone. He's probably just tired, Sean said, moving closer on the couch. You said yourself he doesn't appreciate you. This proves it. He can't even handle one sick child without making you feel guilty. She was asking for me. And she's fine now. You can't live your life constantly worried about every little crisis at home. He was right, I told myself. Gary had handled it. Kenia was okay. I deserved this weekend, this chance to remember who I was outside of being a wife and mother. But as Sean leaned in to kiss me, all I could think about was my daughter's fevered face, asking for a mother who was hundreds of miles away, pretending to be someone she wasn't. The kiss was everything I'd imagined it would be, passionate, desperate, alive. But underneath the excitement was a growing sense that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. When we finally broke apart, Sean's eyes were dark with desire. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Really stay with me." I looked at the separate beds, at Sean's hopeful face, at the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. This was my chance, my moment to choose the life I'd been dreaming of. "Yes," I whispered back, but as he led me toward his bed, my phone buzzed one last time with a message from Gary. "Regarding our marriage, we need to talk when you get home. I know about Chicago. I know about Sean. I know about everything." My blood turned to ice, but it was too late to turn back now. I was about to discover that some choices can't be undone, and some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Sunday evening, I stood on my front porch with my suitcase, key trembling in my hand. The house was dark except for a single lamp in the living room window, and that soft glow felt less like welcome and more like a spotlight. Gary's car was in the driveway, but Sean's rental was already pulling away, taillights shrinking until they disappeared, leaving me to face the consequences alone. Chicago had felt like a dream. Attentive hands, expensive dinners, a version of me who wasn't tired. But Gary's last text followed me through every kiss like a warning I refused to read. When I opened the front door, there were no running footsteps from Kenia, no familiar greeting, only the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the heavy certainty that I had done something I couldn't undo. "Gary," I called, forcing my voice to stay steady. "In here." His voice came from the kitchen, calm in a way that made my stomach twist. He sat at the dining table in his work clothes, sleeves still rolled up, as if he'd been waiting in the same position for hours. In front of him lay a thick manila folder, squared neatly with the edge of the table, like evidence prepared for trial. I asked about Kenia, and he answered without warmth. "Fever broke. She's sleeping." I started to apologize, to say I tried to call, and he didn't raise his voice at all. "Did you?" he asked. "Because I have our phone records right here, and it shows you never tried to call before I texted you." My mouth went dry. He opened the folder and slid papers forward like cards. Phone logs, credit card statements, a restaurant receipt with a table for two. Then the hotel registration, Mr. and Mrs. Sean Larkin, 1 suite, 2 nights. The ink on the page looked final, merciless. "You registered as his wife," Gary said quietly. "My wife registered at a hotel as another man's wife." I sat down because my knees refused to hold me. He didn't let me build a story. He read messages Sean had bragged about, lines that turned my stomach, and then he placed one more document on top of the pile. Divorce papers. Filed that morning. Primary custody requested. Supervised visitation until I could prove stability. I tried to bargain with counseling, with promises, with endings I could rewrite, but Gary only stood and gathered the folder. "You made your choice," he said. "Now I'm making mine."